We continue our month-long series on attachment styles. Last time we talked about what's happening inside of her and how sex plays out in the bedroom with anxious and avoidant attachment styles. And we learned that it is all about emotional safety. But how do you be safe for her without becoming small and self-abandoning yourself? Welcome back to the Secure Husband Podcast. Bruce Abbott, certified professional coach, founder of SecureHusband.com. You don't create safety by shrinking. You do it by staying grounded, rooted, calm, present. Most anxious or preoccupied attachment men believe the only way to keep a relationship peaceful and create emotional safety is to make sure she's okay, that we don't ever rock the boat and we walk on eggshells. You try harder, you listen more, you apologize first, you soften your opinions. You take the blame even when it's not yours. You regulate her emotions instead of yours. You do emotional damage control before there's really even any damage. We've talked about that over the last couple of podcasts. People pleasing, giving to get. You think you're loving her, but what's really happening is you're trying to earn emotional safety by abandoning your own. We talked about how empathy and being grounded is so important to help her and her triggers. Let's look at how you can do this without abandoning yourself. Because after a while, what's going to happen is you will start to feel resentful. You will feel like you're still never enough. You're still overgiving, but not receiving anything back. You're feeling underloved. You still feel like you're walking on eggshells. You feel like there's no place for you to get your needs met or your truth or your frustrations dealt with. And you feel like you're doing all of the work of connection and somehow nothing changes. But this is self-abandonment because you're not becoming a better man, you're shrinking. You're becoming small. The tough truth in all of this is you can't create safety for her by abandoning yourself. You can only create safety for her by being calm, regulated, present in who you are. Not collapsing, not performing, not chasing, not fixing, not over-explaining. A secure man doesn't disappear to keep the peace. He stays rooted, grounded in himself. That's what creates peace. So I want to look at this. I want to look at different ways that anxious men try to create emotional safety, but they do it by shrinking. And this is how we can replace this with strength and grounded empathy, respectful self-honoring, that actually moves the needle. You don't abandon yourself. She feels your strength. She feels your groundedness, your presence. She feels emotional trust. She feels genuine emotional safety. And it starts with this idea of peacekeeping. Anxious men confuse peacekeeping with love. What you think you're doing, you think you're being kind. You think you're preventing conflict. Keeping the marriage stable, don't rock the boat. You're walking on eggshells, though. You think you're protecting her from discomfort. If you've ever said in your marriage, I just want you to be okay, and you've abandoned yourself in whatever decision that was. Or, yeah, you know what, it's fine. Don't worry about it. When really, it bothers you. Or it's not a big deal. Doesn't matter what I want, babe. I just want us to be good. If you're sacrificing your needs so that she won't feel the pressure, or you soften your opinions on things so that she doesn't feel conflict or challenge, or if you take responsibility for things so that she doesn't feel discomfort, you think you're being loving. You think you're being empathic. But what's actually happening is her nervous system can sense that. Right through you, she can see that he's not telling me the truth. I can feel him. He's still not there emotionally. She doesn't really know what you feel. So she can't trust what she's seeing, and therefore she doesn't feel safe, even though you think you're creating safety, because she doesn't feel you. She doesn't feel you standing for anything. She doesn't feel you grounded and emotionally strong. Peacekeeping is not creating emotional safety. It's manipulation. It's dishonesty. Women can feel that dishonesty, even when the words are there, and they sound good. They sound like they're loving. But a woman is not going to relax into a man who hides himself, even if he's hiding himself for her. She doesn't want a man who disappears. She wants one who's there, remains present, grounded. Let's go back and let's look at some of these situations where you might say, Okay, whatever you want, babe. Go back and replace that with speaking your truth calmly, grounded. You're not getting upset, but you're speaking what you believe. You're replacing the peacekeeping with authenticity. You're speaking your truth. You're replacing lines like, I'm fine, babe, whatever you want, with honest emotional presence. Tell her what you want. Do it in a grounded way. Let her know, this is what I feel too. And if you're surrendering in areas in your marriage, replace that by just staying grounded in who you are. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to dominate her. You just have to show up real, truthful, authentic, emotionally regulated. That's what creates safety. You can speak your truth, and when you can do that from a calm, grounded place, that will create safety. Superficial peacekeeping will not. And if you're always trying to make her okay, that kills safety and attraction. I get it. Anxious men, we want peace, and we want to be responsible for that peace because we want control. We don't feel like we have any control. So we find ourselves tracking our wife. I joke about the spreadsheet, but you track her tone of voice. You track her moods. You watch her facial expressions. You're analyzing the room. You're adjusting yourself to match her emotional climate that she's in. You are constantly manipulating your behaviors as a reaction to her. And in your mind, you're thinking, if she's upset, I got to fix it. Oh, she's calm? Oh, I can relax. That means your emotional world is reactive instead of grounded, rooted. If you are saying, like I talk about it in the last couple of podcasts, are we okay? Are you okay? Did I do something? I hope you're not upset. I just want us to be good. That looks like you're creating emotional safety. But your energy, again, says, I am not okay unless you are okay. That's been a theme over the last few podcasts in this month-long podcast series. Attachment styles are so different that your anxious and preoccupied attachment inside is screaming, I will not be okay unless you are okay. That doesn't create the emotional safety. It creates more of that burden that she feels because she feels that she's not allowed to have emotions because he panics when I do, and that I have to, as a wife, stay regulated for him. I can't self-regulate myself. If I don't hold it together, he spirals down. The whole relationship just turns into a hot mess. Ultimately, she feels responsible for your sense of peace. And that is not creating emotional safety. That's not intimacy. That's putting that on her shoulders. That's emotional labor for her. Attraction's not going to exist where that emotional labor is present. What you think is creating safety there, again, is not. So what do? You stop regulating or trying to regulate her mood. Regulate your own nervous system first. Let her have her emotions, whatever they are, without trying to fix them. Don't try to rescue her emotionally. Just replace that with grounded presence. Just stay in the moment. Say less. Breathe more. Just be the oak tree, the mighty oak tree, the mountain in the ever-changing weather. You don't create safety by solving her feelings. You create safety by not requiring her to manage yours. It's the complete opposite of what we think we need to do to make her feel emotionally safe. Because if we don't, we self-abandon. That's how empathy turns into self-abandonment. When you do not regulate yourself first. Anxious men, we're deeply empathic. We feel deeply because of our upbringing. We learned to read the room at a very, very young age. When you have that dialogue with your inner boy inside, you talk about those moments when you felt emotionally left out as a child. And so you come into adulthood with those same coping mechanisms. So you feel her feelings as if they're your own. You have very deep empathy, but you're trying to change yourself so she won't hurt. You are absorbing her emotional discomfort because that's what you feel like you have to do to provide emotional safety. That empathy becomes things like over-apologizing, over-functioning, over-explaining, over-compensating. You are overdoing it, hoping to create that emotional safety. Then it backfires. She has to carry your emotional load and hers. There's no strong presence that she can lean on. The husband disappears emotionally when she expresses her feelings, and she doesn't feel like she can show any emotions without it sending you off into a spiral. That doesn't feel safe to her. It feels burdensome. It feels heavy. Your wife doesn't need you to feel everything that she feels. She just needs you to stay present, stay yourself, stay regulated, stay grounded while she feels it. That's so important. Anxious men never learned that. Never learned that empathy is feeling with her, alongside of her. But self-abandonment is trying to feel instead of her. You see how one connects and then the other drains? You can feel empathy, but you stay grounded. You stay rooted in your own emotional center. Stop trying to handle her emotions. Just witness them. Just watch them. Breathe. Say things like, babe, I'm here with you, instead of trying to fix it. Let her process them without trying to take away her pain. If you are an anxious attachment man and you have that strong empathy, if you combine that with a strong sense of self, that brings emotional safety. If you bring that empathy and you collapse, you don't have that strong sense of self. That does the opposite. It destroys emotional safety. We think we're being fostering of emotional safety, but we're not. And that's frustrating because what happens is when you abandon your own feelings, your own needs, your own truth, when you abandon your own self, you lose her respect. And that's always the opposite of what you think you are doing. When you are doing all these things you think are fostering emotional safety, if you think, oh, you know what? I will express my needs and that will be good. And then it pushes her away. What we tend to do is then we stop having needs, or we express them only when we're like dysregulated and they come out in a big verbal vomit. Or you wait until resentment just builds and builds and builds. And then all of a sudden you're saying things like, I just want you to be happy. It's fine. I don't need anything. It's okay. As long as you're okay, I'm okay. She doesn't hear it that way. Again, you think you're creating emotional safety, but she can't relax into him. I can't relax into a man who doesn't even stand for his own internal truth. He doesn't even know himself. She's thinking if he won't fight for himself, how's he going to fight for me? And she doesn't feel like you're a partner. You think disappearing and just, hey, I'm not going to be a burden. You think that's sacrifice, but she experiences it as emptiness. And it, again, does the opposite. It does not create emotional safety. Women don't respect a man who abandons himself for her comfort. That is completely opposite of what we think we have to do. And it's not because she's mean or cruel. Instinctively, she just cannot feel safe with a man who has no grounded center. Stop collapsing your truth to keep the peace. If you have feelings, name them calmly, emotionally regulated, without any kind of apology or explanation. Just stay grounded. Name your feelings. Let her disagree, but you don't have to take it personally. Disagreeing with you is not disconnection. And if you're people-pleasing and you're always saying, hey, it's fine, I'm fine, it's fine. No. You replace that phrase with, you know what, here's what's truthful to me. Here's what I think. Here's what's true for me, too. Safety's not created by silence and people-pleasing. It's created by presence. That's one of the toughest things I think about being an anxious attachment man, is understanding that compliance, people-pleasing, niceness is actually harmful and not helpful. Anxious men tend to believe if I'm nice enough and loving enough and patient enough, that she'll feel safe. Isn't that what women want? No. The safety comes from stability. It doesn't come from niceness. If you're folding under pressure, avoiding conflict, making her emotions your responsibility, changing yourself to prevent her discomfort to keep the peace, chasing her when you're triggered or withdrawing when you're triggered, you want to know what her feelings are before you express your own? Do you feel how self-abandoning that is when you hear it that way? Doesn't feel like love to her. Feels like instability. You need her to be calm so you can be okay. That's not safety. It drains her. You have to be kind, but not collapsing. That's being grounded. That's being strong. That's being present, not reactive. You're empathetic, but you're not self-abandoning. You're not erasing your truths. You're steady. You don't have to be perfect. Let her have emotions without losing your own and losing your sense of strength and structure. Your strength is actually not control and manipulation. Your strength, your superpower in all of this is calming your nervous system. You don't have to fix her. You don't have to please her. You don't have to rescue her. You just have to stay grounded. Stay you when she feels what she feels. That's what happens when you move from anxious and preoccupied attachment more towards secure attachment, when you slide along that spectrum more to the center. And as you slide, that's when you stop confusing peacekeeping with love. Making her okay, it destroys safety. Empathy can turn it to self-abandonment so fast. And when you abandon yourself and your truth, and you lose that respect. So that safety requires strength, not niceness. How do you stay calm without going numb and withdrawing? What tends to happen is guys go the opposite direction and they go emotionally blank. They shut down instead of staying steady. They silence themselves instead of self-regulating. They go with the flow here, not as much from trying to keep the peace, but from burnout. It's hard to stay calm when you are burnt out. So you emotionally numb out. And women feel that instantly. Now you're telling yourself, okay, well, I'm being less reactive. I'm not starting any trouble. I'm going to stay neutral. I don't want to make it worse. But now you've swung to the other side of the pendulum. Now you're not grounded. You're not unregulated, but you're still flooded, and then now you freeze up. And that doesn't create safety either. It creates a void. She can't feel you. Before she felt you too much. Now she feels that you've abandoned her. She's thinking, okay, well, I don't feel his presence. I can tell he is shut down, that he's disconnected, that he may be physically here, but he's not emotionally here with me. I don't know what he feels. I don't know where he stands. Now the numbness feels worse than the conflict from before. You've swung the opposite direction. This is not being strong and silent. It's being unavailable, unreadable. There's nothing for her to connect to. That's not being grounded. She can't feel safe in a man that may be physically present but is emotionally gone. Don't collapse your emotions. Feel them. Keep them in that container. Feel what you feel. Stay in your body instead of freezing up. Don't go silent. Just tell yourself, I'm here. In fact, what you can do is you can even say statements to your wife like, hey, babe, I'm listening to you. Or if you do feel flooded, hey, baby, I just need just a moment. I'm not leaving. I'm here. See, calm doesn't mean numbing out and withdrawing. Calm means regulated, present, grounded. You're staying present. You're not disappearing. See how one can create safety and the other creates more loneliness. Loneliness for yourself, disconnection and loneliness for her. You think you are creating safety by shutting down, but you're not. So you have to stay present. Another thing too is when anxious men try to be supportive, we try to validate her, okay? Because we want to create emotional safety while we invalidate ourselves. What does that look like? It looks like agreeing with her when you don't agree. It's apologizing for things you didn't do. I talked about this in previous podcasts. When you take emotional responsibility to keep the peace, you edit your truth. You soften up what you really truly believe to avoid upsetting her. You're trying to validate her feelings while suppressing your own. And that backfires. It's not validation. It's self-abandonment. Validation without self-respect is fake. She feels it. You feel it. She's thinking that he's saying the right words, but I don't believe him. Yeah, he may be agreeing with me, but it doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel honest. She can sense it. She doesn't trust what you're saying. She doesn't trust what you're saying because you always fold. Validation works only when it includes your truth too. When your authentic self shines in that moment. You stay validated. You can validate her, but you can stay grounded. If you've ever said to your wife, you're right, it's my fault, I'm sorry, but in your mind you're thinking, wait a minute, but that's not right. Try this. Babe, I hear how that impacted you. I see why it felt that way. Here's what I was experiencing on my side too. You see how that's not manipulative? That's not self-abandoning. You're validating what you're hearing, but you're also saying, here's what I experienced. You don't say, babe, you're right, whatever you say. You tell her, babe, I understand what you're saying. Here's what's also true for me. See the difference? Yeah, babe, I know I shouldn't feel that way. No. Hey, babe, your feelings make sense, and so do mine. Validation does not mean you disappear. It doesn't mean you abandon yourself. It just means you stand with her without leaving yourself. That's what secure men do. And it allows you to hold space without fixing or chasing or rescuing. When she's upset, anxious men feel two things. They feel the tension in her, and they feel this sense of urgency in themselves. That's why they fix and explain and try to solve and apologize and chase and perform. And we believe if I can remove her discomfort, I can restore connection. Again, we think we are creating emotional safety, but women don't need their emotions fixed. They need room to feel without being managed and without you getting dysregulated. I did that so much in my marriage. My wife was always like, you're making this about you. She doesn't trust that I can just feel and process. She kept telling me, you don't try to control my emotions. Just listen to me. Just be with me. She often felt that she wasn't understood. She doesn't want somebody to try to fix it. She wants a regulated partner who's calm and grounded and present. Just to be. Just start allowing and listen and stop fixing. Let her emotions exist without reacting or defending or correcting. Stop trying to explain and just be present. I'm here. Keep going. I'm listening, baby. I get that this matters to you. Yeah, I can handle you being upset. I'm listening. Don't try to change anything. She doesn't have to protect you from your feelings. A secure husband doesn't rush out and try to fix her emotions. He just holds space while she moves through them. The mountain. She's the weather, ever-changing. You are grounded, strong, steady, consistent. And that allows you to stop over-functioning in the relationship. Anxious guys, we try to do so much. We try to do a lot, and we see avoidant women doing too little. It becomes this pattern. You over-function, trying to create emotional safety. She under-functions when it comes to relational responsibility. So now you see you becoming the initiator, the regulator, the pursuer, the peacemaker. You see her becoming the withdrawer, the avoider, the reactor, the distancer. You're carrying this workload of two adults. Then you feel resentful, unseen, exhausted, because you're trying to create emotional safety by becoming the workhorse. Every time you take responsibility that isn't yours, you teach her that she doesn't need to show up. You think you're helping. You think you're creating emotional safety, but you are removing her accountability. Now, how does this mesh up with what we've been talking about, just staying present, staying grounded, let her have her emotions? Here's how it shows up. When you stop doing things like being the one that's always initiating the hard conversations, when you're the one that's always managing the emotional temperature for both of you, when you're the one that's trying to fix miscommunication, when you're the one apologizing first every time, when you're the one filling every silence because you can't stand the silence, you have to fill it up so that she's not disconnected. You feel like you are creating emotional safety, but it feels like pressure to her, and she won't do anything. All you can do is fix your side of the street. But what do you do when you feel like you're the one who's over-functioning? Get comfortable in the silence. Just let the silence exist. Let her re-enter connection. Let her feel discomfort without rescuing her. Shared problems, they stay shared. Don't emotionally carry them for both of you. 50-50. It takes two people to create a healthy relationship. Give space for her to initiate some repair or closeness or affection or conversation. When you stop over-functioning, she's forced to decide whether she's going to show up or not. And that is what reveals the real relationship, not the anxious husband's emotional labor and the over-functioning. And that allows you to just be present and secure and see, hey, Is this two people working on this relationship? Because as of right now, you feel like you are the only one who's been working on it. Now, give it some space and see where it goes. And at that point, it may be very obvious what the real relationship is, that radical acceptance that this has been all you. Now, it's time to stop overfunctioning. And that's secure leadership. Because what happens is, over time, when it's very apparent that there is absolutely nothing happening from the other side of the street, then you can start initiating some boundaries and making some tough decisions if you need to. It's secure leadership. Secure leadership, it's tough in those emotional moments. I get it. I've been there. I have been through all of this. Most of us anxious guys think that leadership is dominance or control, that we've always got to be right. We have to be perfect. Secure leadership in a relationship is when you can hold on to yourself and stay connected to yourself, no matter what's happening around you. You stay calm without shutting down. You hear her feelings, but you're not taking them on. You're not absorbing them. You're validating her perspective, and you're also holding your own, staying present, even when she's being dysregulated. We talk a lot about us being emotionally dysregulated, but what do we do when she's dysregulated? You stay present. You don't collapse into shame or guilt or appeasement or panic. You can love her without abandoning your dignity and integrity. You can be emotionally available without being dependent. You regulate. You don't dominate. It doesn't mean you become a jerk and this dominating figure. That doesn't create emotional safety. A secure man doesn't command his wife to do things. He holds space. He contains. He remains centered. He doesn't disappear. That's the kind of man a woman can relax around and respect, be drawn to. He doesn't need to be chosen to be whole because he chooses himself. That's why it's so important to do that inner work. That's why it's so important to dialogue with that inner child. That's why it's so important to be self-compassionate to that little boy inside of you who learned he had to earn love, who learned that he had to always read the room to stay safe. He's an adult now. He's a grown man. He doesn't have to do that anymore. And you parent that little boy inside of you, and you give him love, and you give him self-compassion. And that dissolves the shame. You reach out to that higher power, that dialogue, truth, replacing false core beliefs, value, understanding your worth. Security comes from you staying you. It's not about sacrificing for emotional safety. It's not about giving up what you believe so she'll feel safe. You don't swallow your truth. You don't take the blame. You don't try to fix her pain. You don't peacekeep. You don't lose her because you have needs. You lose her because you abandon yourself to get love. What she wants, and she will never say it, is a man who stays grounded while she storms. A man who doesn't shrink when emotions rise up. She wants a man who doesn't fold to be approved. A man who can stand with her without leaving himself. That's what creates safety, not perfection or people-pleasing or emotional rescue or urgency. I heard somebody tell me one time, if you have presence and a spine, heart and boundaries, love and self-respect, that's secure husband energy. And I love that. I told him, I'm sorry, I got to steal that for myself. It's not about becoming someone else. It's just finally returning to yourself, being you, being secure without abandoning yourself. That is how you create emotional safety. I hope this podcast was helpful for you. I hope you're enjoying this month-long series on attachment styles. Subscribe to this podcast if you don't already. Share it with a friend, somebody who may need to hear this. If you're a regular listener, would you give me a review? I love to see the percentage of repeat listeners to this podcast. If you could give a review, that would help other men get unstuck. And if you need that accountability factor, reach out, securehusband.com, fill out that form for a free 30-minute consultation, just a conversation to see if I can help you get unstuck. And I'll see you on the next Secure Husband podcast. Thanks for listening.